In this video, I'll demonstrate how to install Ubuntu Desktop. Now, before you follow along with this, I'm also going to show you how to install Ubuntu in an AWS account. That's going to be our next lesson. And so you can choose whichever option works for you. What I'm doing here is I'm taking an old laptop and I'm going to install Ubuntu Desktop on it. In the next lesson, I'm going to go to my AWS account and I'm going to install Ubuntu Server. So depending on what you want to use, just pick one of these methods and go with it. And if you're not sure which one to choose, I would suggest the AWS option instead of this one. This one's going to be a little bit more involved, and it's also going to require you to have some hardware that you can install Ubuntu on. So like I said, I'm just using an old laptop. And so I'm just going to follow the instructions right on the Ubuntu website. And you can see a link to this documentation shown here on your screen. And so to start out, we're going to need a couple things. We're going to need a laptop or a PC with at least 25 gigabytes of storage space and a flash drive with at least 8 gigs, but ideally 12 gigs or more of storage capacity. So I have both of those things. So I'm going to move on here to step 2, where we download an Ubuntu image. And so I'm going to go ahead and download that and save it to my computer. And I'll pause my recording while the download is in progress. And here it is. Here's the ISO image that's been downloaded. So now I have all of the necessary software downloaded. Let's move on to step 3, where we're going to create a bootable USB stick. And they are recommending a certain software here to create an ISO, a bootable ISO, on our USB disk. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the recommended software here called Balena Etcher. And so I'll just click on the little link here to download this software. I'm going to download the version of it for Windows. And I can see here that my download is complete. So let's go ahead and open this file and install this software so that I can create my bootable USB drive. So I'm just going to click on I agree here. And the installation process will begin. And there we go. So I'm going to create a new flash from a file. So I'm just going to click on Flash from File. And I'll browse to the Ubuntu image that I just downloaded. I'll go ahead and hit open there. And then it's going to ask me which USB device do I want to use. Now I've got my little USB drive already plugged in there. You can see it's right here and it's 31 gigs. So I'm going to stick with that USB device. And I'll just go ahead and hit flash. And now I'll just pause my recording while I wait for this process to complete. It looks like the estimated time of completion is going to be about 8 minutes. All right, so a message just popped up from Balena Etcher saying that the process was complete. And then look what happens. Microsoft Windows wants me to format that device. Well, I definitely don't want to do that because that would just undo everything that I just created. So I'm going to cancel that. And there we go. I can see flash complete. So now I've created the bootable USB flash device. And if we go back to step 4 on our instructions, we can see our next step here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first safely eject the USB device from my laptop. And once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and boot up my laptop from this flash drive. So let's switch over to our laptop and observe the process from there. And so as I power on my laptop, I'm just going to repeatedly hit F12. Your laptop might be a little bit different. It might have a slightly different boot menu. So you might have to hit something different. But here you can see the menu that I'm trying to get to. And I apologize if the video quality is not what you're used to here. But you can see here there's a menu that allows me to choose what I would like to boot from. And so I'm just going to go down to USB storage device. And I'm going to hit enter there. And I'm going to have my computer boot up from USB storage. And notice what it's giving me is a little menu asking me Do I want to try or install Ubuntu? I'm going to go ahead and just hit enter on that. And now the next part of the process is going to take some time. Now my computer needs to boot up from this USB device that I've installed here. So I'm going to pause my recording and give that process some time to complete. You can see the screen that I'm at here, and you'll probably see a similar screen. It's going to take somewhere around 10 minutes or so for this boot process to complete. Okay, so it took about 10 minutes, like I said, and now the boot process is complete. So I'm going to click on Install Ubuntu. I'm going to choose my language, which in my case is English US. And I'm going to connect to my Wi-Fi. And the reason I'm going to do this is because of the fact that I want to install updates and I want to install some third-party software and drivers as well. So I'll just take a moment to put in my Wi-Fi password. And I'll go ahead and click on Connect to connect to my Wi-Fi. And I'll choose Continue. And so now it's giving me a couple options. I'm going to do the normal installation, and there are other options that Ubuntu suggests that we do enable. And so do we want to install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware? Do we want to download updates? Yes, I'm going to go ahead and do both of those things. So now I can choose the installation type, and I'm going to erase the current disk and install Ubuntu. So I'm just going to click on Install Now. And it's basically going to warn me that it's going to delete partitions. I'm fine with that, so I'll go ahead and click on Continue. And now it's asking where I am. I'm in New York, so I'll go ahead and click on Continue here. And it's asking me for some basic information here. I'll just fill this out and hit Continue. And now it's going to start copying files and actually formatting my disks. So I'll pause my recording while this part of the installation is in process. And so after waiting for about 15 minutes, it looks like my installation is now complete. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Restart Now button. And now you can see here it's asking me to remove the installation media. So I'm going to take my USB drive out, and I'll go ahead and hit enter. And so now my computer is booting up without the USB media physically installed. And so it should boot into the Ubuntu operating system that I have now installed on this machine. And there we go. It looks like we are now into our Ubuntu desktop environment. And so I'm going to skip this first option, which is asking me to create online accounts. And I'm just going to click next at the next few screens here. I'm not going to bother sending system info to Ubuntu. And now we are basically ready to go. So we now have a fully functional Ubuntu desktop installation on this computer. And for much of this course, we're going to be doing commands from the command line. And so we can click up here on Activities, and that'll give me a little search area here. And I'm just going to type in terminal, and now I can launch my terminal in Ubuntu. And so this is the terminal that I am going to use to input any commands that I may need to input moving forward.